Retro Trekking with the Caramel Apples, a podcast where the topic is rarely about apples. This week's deep dive is about a favorite 80s, early 90s musical mainstay whose riveting story captivated our rapt attention with the refreshing sounds of the music they shared, and how they climbed to the top of the music charts in short order, only to have it come crashing down in a gut-wrenching fell swoop. Fasten your seatbelt and join in as we peer into the fascinating twists and turns of gorgeous retro pop act, Milli Vanilli. Now here's your hosts, Kennedy Rizzo and Cooper Lee. Coop, we have yet another interesting Orchard Trek retro to embark on this week.
Mm-hmm.
You and I are rabid buffs of most things from our recent retro past, but it's of no secret on just how much music was that connector, that mainstay in our fond memories of yesteryear. So our retro trek this week is sure not to disappoint, for we'll be revisiting nostalgia over one of the coolest pop acts of the 80s. Who are we referring to there, Coop?
Oh, let's see. That would be Milli Vanilli.
Bang.
That is such a blast from the past.
Yeah, it sure is.
And let me tell you, these guys were quite fascinating. I actually remember well the craze surrounding this pop duo. Their songs were catchy, cool, and we can't forget to mention one of the major reasons people paid attention.
Oh my, yes. They were some amazing eye candy, don't you know? But we'll get into all that here in a bit, so we've got a lot to unpack. But before we launch into our retro discussion this week, we just want to remind you to hit that subscribe button and visit us on the Gram, X, and TikTok. Also, check out our official website, RetroTrekwithTheCaramelApples.com, to see all the latest and greatest updates going down in the Retro Orchard. Okay, this week's discussion is set to be most informative as well as entertaining.
Indeed it is, Kennard. So, who is Milli Vanilli exactly?
Explain.
Milli Vanilli was a black German duo. Was that a mess up? Okay. German duo R&B music act from Munich. The pop act was created in 1988 by Frank Farian, founder of another act, Boney M, and consisted of Fab Morvan, and Rob Pilatus, the lip-syncing performers.
Oh, nice. As well as a familiar setup with our recounting the real and raw of Milli Vanilli. They actually became one of the most popular pop acts in the late 80s and early 90s, with 7 million records sold in America alone.
Jeez.
Internationally, I know. And internationally, Milli Vanilli sold approximately 30 million singles. So, however, their success turned to infamy when it was discovered that Morvan and Pilatus did not sing any of the vocals on their music releases.
Oh boy.
Yeah, we remember this, don't we?
Oh yeah. Yeah, like it was yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
This uncomfortable development teetered on being most scandalous.
Yep.
So let's get a brief backstory on how Fab Morvan and Rob Pilatus crossed paths, shall we?
Oh, yes, let's get into this.
Yeah. So Pilatus, again from Munich, met Fabrice Morvan from
his
Paris.
mother was not kind to him, was it, Fabrice? Sounds like fabric softener.
I was going to say, you fast forward to when Febreze kind of hit the shelves, he probably would have been teased mercilessly. um, I forgot. Did I mention that he's from Paris?
Oh, you probably did. I cut you off. Sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. So, yeah, from Munich and Paris. So they met during a dance seminar at a club in Munich, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
And they bonded over their experiences growing up in European cities, which is just has a different kind of experience all wrapped around it anyway, doesn't it?
Oh,
I
yeah,
mean,
definitely.
yeah, Europe is just awesome.
It is.
Yeah. So Rob Pilatus said, and I quote, "Maybe it's because we're both Black people who grew up in foreign cities that don't have too many Blacks," end quote.
Oh, that's an interesting perspective. So, like you said, in Munich, they attempted to find work as backing singers, then formed their own act and recorded an album for a small German label that sold a few thousand records.
Okay.
According to Rob Pilatus, they struggled financially and lived in a housing project. That's a tale as old as time when it comes to young people trying to live and make ends meet in the world we live in.
Yeah.
And it was definitely the way it was in the world they lived in, apparently.
Yeah.
But a basket of lemons sure can make some delicious lemonade.
You said it. You said it. And we do enjoy that from time to time. So, facts. So, entering stage left is the German music producer Frank Farian, who we mentioned previously, created the disco group Boney M.
I've never heard of them, honestly.
Yeah, I agree. That was a new one. But he invited Rob Pilatus and Fab Marvan to his Frankfurt studio to listen to a demo, Girl, You Know It's True. They told and assured him they could sing it.
Okay.
So, according to Pilatus, Mr. Farian said that he would make them multimillionaires.
Oh, that sounds attractive.
It really does. Especially, like we said, they were interested in this. They were living where they were living. So
Yeah.
they're like, maybe we can get a house. So, where have we heard this kind of tale before, right?
Yep.
It's I think been repeated mercilessly millions of times over, multi-millions of times over.
Oh, now hashtag facts again.
Yes. So many times behind the scenes of these fascinating stories. This is the draw and allure of wanting to make it big for so many.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
We still see it today on steroids, honestly.
That's right.
And a promise of wide success, notoriety, fame, and fortune. Looks awfully appealing to a couple of broke up and coming starving artists.
You said it, Coop. So on January 1st, 1988, the two actually signed a contract with Mr. Farian to record 10 songs a year. Now, the duo signed without understanding the terms and conditions. This is also a tale as old as time because that fine print on anything, you don't even know sometimes, what am I signing? But
yeah,
the attractive part of whatever's offered is what's flashing in light. So that's all really a lot of people see. And these are young people. Come on.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So the duo, they're singing in the recording studio. After signing all this, it actually did not impress Mr. Farian. So, uh-oh.
Oh. Uh-oh's right. Oh. Here's where our story starts to form some twists and turns.
Okay.
Fun fact, did you know that the final mix of Girl You Know It's True was finished by studio performers, including Charles Shaw, John Davis, Brad Howell, and twin sisters Jody and Linda Rocco in March and April.
Okay. Interesting fun fact there, Cooper.
Mm-hmm.
The pieces of the puzzle are now slowly coming together. Farian gave his new project the name Milli Vanilli. with Milli taken from the nickname of his then girlfriend, Ingrid Segias, and Vanilli added to the sound like the British band Scritti Politti. So by May, Pilatus and Morvan were touring Spain, France, and Italy, lip syncing to the pre recorded tracks and thrilling crowds with their distinct style. Spandex shorts, thigh high boots, and the ever famous cornrow hair extensions. That's their signature, mon.
Oh my goodness. It's like, how did that style ever get to be a style? That is fashion faux pas at its finest, right? But apparently it worked at the time. But I would have to say, I don't know if you're in the same camp as me, but I thought they were actually from Jamaica. So it's funny that you said that, Mon. I literally did, at the time I thought they were from Jamaica. So
Right. And I mean, their look worked. Like we just described, kind of like what they wore on stage when they were performing or whatever.
yeah,
But like when we think back to that with the dreads and everything, like it was like I don't know, because they were so unique and distinctive.
yes.
Like it drew people in. It definitely drew the ladies in. I think the guys kind of hated on them because they were jealous or whatever. Totally jelly.
Yes. But it is interesting because, like you said, it all came together very well at the time and it just worked.
It did.
So,
It did.
yeah, I mean, you go anywhere now and see if you don't know if anyone heard of Milli Vanilli. It's really cool.
Yeah. We were on board.
Yeah, we really were. And the Girl Squad. So, according to Rob Pilatus, he shared, and I quote, "We would ask Frank, when are we going to be allowed to give some artistic input?" It's
Oh, they're
not a
asking
dumb
questions.
question. Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And he's probably starting to sweat bullets. How do I tell them I don't like how you sound? And he would say, yeah, but right now we need you to go out and do promotion. Of course, you'll get to do it. Just work with us. That's how he strung us along, unquote. They were starting to detect the problems of ruin. Their spidey senses were tingling, unfortunately.
Uh-huh. And
Yeah.
after Girl You Know It's True took off in Germany in the summer of 1988, Farian produced and wrote most of the material on the album All or Nothing, which was released in Europe in November 1988.
Okay.
So, here's in quotes. After Frank released the album, he told us that it was too late to stop now, Rob said, because the single was such a big success. He said, now you have to go through with it. I'll cover you guys. Nobody will find out. He said, here, I'll give you $20,000 advance in money. We never had a hit before, so we went along with it. We played with fire and now we know, but it's too late, end quote.
Oh, that's so sad.
Yeah.
I mean, you'd hate to say that they were preyed upon, but I don't know. It almost kind of feels that way. Like,
Yeah.
hire them as the face. At least be honest with them. I mean, like, they were asking questions and they weren't getting any answers. They were
Right.
starving artists. This is what they wanted to do.
Yeah.
And like you said, that fine print, it gets you every time.
Yes, it does.
Jeez. So fast forward a little bit to December of 1988.
Okay.
Pilatus and Morvan had both come to the realization that neither of their actual voices would ever be heard on any Milli Vanilli tracks. How disappointing this has to be for them at this point.
No doubt.
With the US remix album All or Nothing in 1989 under the name 2x2 and reached number 6, All or Nothing was subsequently expanded and repackaged as Girl You Know It's True for audiences in the US. Yeah.
All right.
And released in March of 1989.
Oh, I remember this.
I know, like it was yesterday. And it was a major success, producing 5 singles, including the title track of the American version, that all entered the top 5 of the Billboard Hot 100. The guys had arrived. 3 of these 5 singles, Baby, Don't Forget My Number. Blame It on the Rain, and Girl, I'm Gonna Miss You went to number 1. In January of 1990, the album Girl You Know It's True was certified 6-time platinum by the RIAA after spending 7 weeks atop the Billboard Top 200. Yes, massive explosions of success, all the fireworks. You're popping bottles at this point, right?
That's right. They had what it took, right?
Exactly. And that one, it spent 41 weeks in the top 10 of the Billboard Top 200 and 78 weeks. 78 weeks on the charts overall. It's like, let that soak in.
Yeah.
And it was also certified diamond, sparkling, in Canada, denoting sales of over 1 million units there. Milli Vanilli won the Best New Artist Award at the 32nd Grammy Awards, as well as 3 awards at the 17th American Music Awards. However, the duo was not without their detractors, as Rolling Stone magazine named them Worst Act of 1989. Now, I'm going to stop because I think it was probably the style, their fashion probably led to that. And, Girl You Know It's True, worst album of 1989. What?
I don't know about you, Coop, but that's a bit of a bittersweet moment and realization, though.
Sure.
I mean, we knew that they were Grammy winners, so they were Grammy Award winning. And this was of the era that you just mentioned where there was the American Music Awards. So, that was the bee's knees back then. We couldn't wait to see our favorite artists clean up.
Truly, yes.
So the fact that all this was happening and then things, there were still little uncomfortable moments, sprinkled in there. And I hate that for them because they were really cool. They were. Yeah. So back to the Grammys. The 32nd Grammy Awards took place on February 21st, 1990 at Los Angeles' fabled Shrine Auditorium, where Milli Vanilli's Rob Pilatus and Fab Morvan sat in the front row, nervously waiting for Chris Christopherson, who, I think he just passed away just a couple, 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Oh, Rubber Duck.
Yeah.
And Young MC to announce the winner of that year's Best New Artist Award from among a group that included folk duo Indigo Girls, alternative Fave, Nana Cherry. That was a good song too. Buffalo Stance, Nana Cherry, right there.
It was. Love that song.
That's the jam right there. Oh my God.
I know. Get funky.
That's right. And British house music pioneers Soul to Soul. I remember them too in 90.
Yep.
And MC's delicious vinyl label mate Tone Loc.
Yes, got it. Oh, wow. Those names in music sure do take you back to that era. Go on.
And the Best New Artist Grammy goes to... That's right, the guys. Milli Vanilli.
Wow, I'm sorry.
You're that's funny.
Yes, the guys, they go on to explain, and I quote, Rob and I hugged each other and celebrated, recalls Rab Morvan, then 23 years old. He goes on to say, quote, it may have looked like joy and happiness, but inside it was pure confusion. We knew this would come back to bite us in the butt. End quote.
Jeez.
Yeah. Yeah.
And not to go too long on this, like him describing that feeling, like we've all been in situations where, maybe you were like having fun going along, and you kind of
Yeah.
think, I got to be careful in the back of your mind.
Yes.
But you're still having fun and going along. Your friends are all together, whatever.
Yeah.
But you still feel like you're being backed into a corner, and you're like, you're starting to get nervous. You're like, I don't know if I'm taking XYZ too far.
Yes.
But you still it's like your body just keeps walking forward. Like you're not stopping, right?
Yes. And like you said, probably most people have experienced this a time or two. Some of us do it multiple times, right? But then there is the moment where you're like, I knew better. Why did I do it? And then to reoccur, to keep doing stupid stuff. But it's that elephant. It's that looming gorilla. You're like, it's gonna come crashing down at some point. It's that pit, that feeling that you get in your gut, like, oh God.
Right. It's the whole zoo at that point. You're like,
at that point, yes.
My goodness. So interestingly, this Morvan reference is the fact that the two had lip synced to songs on their multi-platinum 1989 album, a controversy that would play itself out publicly in the months to come and result in the rare Grammy Award revocation. This is unfortunately what Milli Vanilli is known for.
Oh, so heartbreaking. Oh.
It is, because we loved them. I mean, they had fans galore.
Yes, I mean, the music was just very of that time, but it had a different sound to it at that point.
Yes.
And everybody loved them.
It did.
The concert came around. We didn't get to go. We didn't have the funds. We wanted to go. But like the next day after that at school, everybody's running around with the t-shirts on and stuff, the people who were able to go.
Right.
So, I mean, they really did capture an audience.
Yeah.
And it's just sad that, like you said, this is what they're known for now.
Yeah.
It wasn't that awesomeness. It's the other.
Yeah. Yeah. And we'll probably get into this a little bit as our Orchard Trek Retro blossoms, but this was such a scandal back then, but like, what is it now? Like, nobody does anything authentically. So it's like they tore these guys' potential career and stardom up because of nuances.
Yes.
That are just not even thought of today. So everything's a free for all. Do what you want. Nobody cares.
Yeah. And I think, truth be told, like you said, we'll probably get into it later on, but truth be told, the people who actually are big name entertainers, like we were talking about Milli Vanilli, they're jumping and dancing around like they were moving, right? They're not just standing in one spot when they were doing their performances.
Right.
Most entertainers don't. So probably the majority of them do this. They sing to their own, they lip sync to their own tracks. I guess the problem really was that it wasn't ever really them to say, okay, yeah, we're lip syncing, but it's because we're performing right now. We how are you going to sing and dance your butt off and at the same time without getting extremely winded? Exactly. So the fact that they could say it's still us, that's probably where the real scandal lies, that it wasn't actually their voice. So but it's so sad because that's not what they were trying to do. They didn't set out to do that.
Yeah, they thought they were being led into a deal that would ultimately benefit them regardless. Yes. They knew, but they didn't know that they were going to be out.
Right. Because as you had mentioned, it has been stated that the guy was like, I got your back. Don't worry about it. Because if he said, well, no, you're going to have to carry that bag yourself, maybe they would have said, okay, never mind. We're going over here.
Right.
Yeah. So I guess there was also those calling for the Recording Academy to reverse its decision and return the trophy to the group's surviving member.
Okay.
That's interesting. So to recap, 9 months after their Grammy win on November 20th of 1990, Pilatus and Morvan were holding a hasty called press conference at Ocean Way Studio in Hollywood to officially turn over their Grammy Awards. A day after then, Recording Academy head Michael Green had already officially revoked it on behalf of the organization. Just a week before, the duo's Grammy producer and mastermind Frank Farian revealed to Rutgers what had been a poorly kept secret within the tight-knit recording industry. The German-born Pilatus and Paris native Morvan hadn't sung a single note. Okay, sorry. On the worldwide 14 million selling, chop-tarting, popping Girl You Know It's True album, which generated 5 top 5 singles, and 3 number 1 pop hits in Blame It on the Rain, Baby Don't Forget My Number, and Girl I'm Gonna Miss You.
Ugh, again.
Yeah.
I don't know. Those are all those songs you listed. Yeah. Primo. I love Girl I'm Gonna Miss You because that's a ballad. Coop and I don't care for ballads. That song jams.
It did.
Oh my goodness. They look pretty good in the video too, if we don't mind our saying it, but whatever. But goodness, these songs are so very nostalgic.
Yes.
I actually had this cassette tape and wore it out.
She did.
And why? Because it was everyone's jam during that time.
Yes.
I believe I was in the 9th grade when they hit it big at their peak, when you were talking about their concerts and everything. I think I was in 9th grade, to be honest.
Right? And, you had all the little magazines back then. They start showing up and stuff like that. I mean, that just goes with the territory, right?
Oh, wonderful memories.
Yes, it's so cool. I remember it well, too. But essentially, Frank Farian pulled the plug and blew up his own creation, in turn punishing Pilatus and Morvan for the sheer gall of wanting to sing on their own next album.
The nerve.
I know. Quote, I hope this revocation will make the industry think long and hard before anyone ever tries to pull something like this again. End quote, said then Recording Academy head Michael Green, who happily posed for pictures with the winning duo at the Grammy ceremony.
Always when it's happy, huh?
Exactly, yes. So remember our earlier fun fact that Milli Vanilli suggested that the statue be given to the true bona fide singers, that of John Davis, Brad Howell, and Charles Shaw, the album's actual singers.
Okay, so that is correct, Coop. Pilatus and Morvan had already decided to return the Grammy on their own, revealing as much the previous weekend in an interview with the LA Times. Chuck Phillips suggesting the statue be given to the album's actual singers. Okay. Milli Vanilli had performed at the Grammys that night, and according to longtime Grammy producer Ken Ehrlich, it was one of the rare times in his own 40-year stint that he allowed an artist to lip sync on the show, which made a point of honoring craft and artistry, but was certainly not immune to commercial success. Mr. Ehrlich says, and I quote, I agreed to do it for the first time with Janet Jackson a few years earlier, as their management, the late Sandy Gollin and Jim Morey, threatened to pull them off the show, says Ehrlich. They were so hot at the time, we went along. But they were good at it. Even I thought they were singing.
Wow. Okay. Oh. So, former Arista exec Roy Lott insisted to this day that no one at the label, including Clive Davis, who obtained the rights to release the album in the US from BMG after it broke out in Europe, had any clue. The album credits listing Pilatus and Morvan as vocalists were false.
Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah.
That's exhausting. Everyone tries their hardest not to fess up, to not be culpable, right?
Right. Each time they confronted Frank Farian about it, Mr. Law insisted the producers denied the charges, though he did admit there were backup vocalists on the album. Quote,
Oh, okay.
yeah, by the time we learned the truth, it wasn't actually a shock, end quote, Lott confesses.
Okay. Well, there's a Ken Levy, former head of creative services for Arista, reveals the label suspected Pilatus and Morvan hadn't actually sung on the album by the time of their Grammy nomination, a characterization denied by Lott, who insisted neither he nor Clive were aware for sure until Farian's revelation later that year.
They still have the backhoe out.
Indeed, they do. A recent Billboard article claimed Clive Davis was adamantly opposed to the submitting the duo for a Best New Artist nomination for that very reason. But the pair were submitted by Golan Mori management. Ken Levy says, and I quote, "We all knew by the time of the awards they hadn't sung on the album, so it was a little awkward and uncomfortable for us when they did win," reveals Levy, end quote.
Oh, goodness. Deeper and deeper.
Yep.
So, our star pop duo arrived in the US for the first time just as their debut album was released in March of 1989. By the summer, Milli Vanilli were booked on the inaugural Club MTV tour with Paula Abdul, Information Society, and Tone Loc.
Okay.
And as a ubiquitous Girl You Know It's True soared to the top of the charts, Milli Vanilli began to move up the bill to headliner status right after Abdul. Interesting fact, on July 21st, 1989, at Lake Compounce Amusement Park in Bristol, Connecticut, the hard drive containing the vocal parts for Milli Vanilli crashed at the start of the show. It didn't skip endlessly, as Pilatus told VH1's Behind the Music, sending the pair fleeing from the stage, where they had to be coaxed back to finish the set by the evening's host, MTV VJ Julie Downtown Brown.
Oh my goodness, I vividly remember this.
Everyone behind the scenes knew Milli Vanilli were not 100% live, but neither were many of the other acts, including Paula Abdul, recalls Chris Cuban-Tatum, the show producer and front of house sound engineer for the tour. Quote, "You really believe Clive Davis, with his renowned golden ear, didn't know that this was going on? Please." End quote. Oops.
Yeah, we get what you're putting down there, mister. Well, explains Fab Morvan now, and I quote, "We were seduced and very young. We had no life experience. We were riding the wave. It was a crazy adventure. We were getting loaded, trying to escape, constantly in fear of being discovered." End quote. So that type of stress and anxiety would be a big no bueno, right?
Yeah.
Those poor guys, I know they were stressed out beyond measure.
Right, because as the curtain was coming down, or people were starting to look behind the curtain, slowly it was coming out. They knew all along at this point, but at the same time, believing that they would be okay because someone told them they'll take care of them, you would still, they're getting to be known, they're touring, they're around, and now things are malfunctioning, but you're in front of people, you're starting to win awards. Like, you're like, this can't
Yeah.
continue. This just can't. That's like sometimes people choose to do things on the side, when they're in a committed relationship, and then they have their side ventures. It's like, do you really think you can live that way? How long do you think you can get by with doing that?
Yeah, you're
At
going to run
some
out of
point,
road real soon.
real soon, exactly. And then you will pay the piper.
That's
And that's the
right.
scary part. Yep.
That's right.
So the poor guys, for sure. So the pivotal role that the guys had in the success of Milli Vanilli from a marketing and promotional standpoint had been both overblown and downplayed over time. Few people realized how fervently they sold these records in any era when MTV ruled the record charts,
Mm-hmm.
embarking slowly after the Grammy on the massive 4-month-long 107 city tour that took them around the US. Jeez.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, one of Arista Records reps, Mr. Lott, states, and I quote, "You have to give them credit for all those album sales." And this is what we were saying too, isn't it, Coop?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Ultimately, it was Rob and Fab's image that sold the music.
Yep.
They did their job. They were the face of Milli Vanilli, end quote, and hashtag facts.
Right. Yeah, that's what people saw and they put it together. So
Yeah,
you can't take that part away,
that's
right?
right. Yeah.
So some 3 decades later, it's crazy to me and surprising that such a media firestorm took place over lip syncing, which has been commonplace, as we've mentioned, to varying degrees for many years.
Yep.
So those indelible images of Milli Vanilli still exist.
Thank goodness.
Yes. So not just on the internet, where millions of young fans have discovered them, but in pop culture, where Milli Vanilli has turned into a generic term for deception, defined not so much by Pilatus and Morvan pretending to sing, but by the industry machinery foisted on the public. Are we, the fans, even surprised by this guilty as charged industry reference?
Yeah. Cough, cough.
Right.
So Fab Morvan weighed in a bit more on this from his Amsterdam home, and I quote, he says, "We've been carrying this cross for a long time. We've been blamed over and over. We were victims of our own dreams of stardom, chewed up and spit out by the record industry machine," end quote. Whoop, there it is.
And taking the rough and raw ridicule from the scandal so much harder. Poor Rob Pilatus wasn't as fortunate in handling the intense pressure and embarrassment from it. Sadly, ended up dying in an accidental overdose from drugs in a Frankfurt, Germany hotel back in April of 1998. Having just wearily agreed to work with huckster Frank Farian again. Fab states, and I quote, "He was my brother. He was addicted to the public life, their adoration. He couldn't live without it," end quote. How sad that was. The,
Yeah.
you know, the industry is a rough place, and so many people have dreams of stardom. So many people want to walk on that yellow brick road,
Yeah.
and then they find out.
Mm-hmm.
And there's these tales. There's plenty of other people who walked in these shoes, and you still have probably the line of people still wanting to get on that road is longer.
Right.
Even after hearing tales like this, like they're still like,
Yeah.
nope, it won't happen to me. It's like, okay, sure hope not.
Yeah. And some of the terminologies and the quotes that we've been sharing, like chew you up and spit them out. Like
Yeah.
they're trying to say it as nice as they can, but they're like, we felt, exposed. We felt attacked. We felt shamed.
Yes.
So it's like, they're trying to be as nice and careful as they can to describe their experience. But it was like, they're like, look here, guys, it was fun, but it wasn't fun.
Right. Right. And to the 100 people that listen to this warning that they've given, maybe 99 will still pursue the course, but maybe one person will go, oh, maybe I'll rethink that. Maybe I'll rethink it.
Yeah.
You just never know, because
Yeah.
they started off with stars in their eyes too. The promise of
I know.
money, the promise of fame. Wow, it's dangerous.
Yes, and we went over something similar in our episode of Dirty Pop.
Yep.
Same thing. And now, like, those are big names too. Milli
Yep.
Vanilli, and we were talking about Backstreet Boys and NSYNC. We know those names. We know those groups. So, I mean, it's like, who would do them dirty? But it
It did. It did.
happened.
Oh,
Yeah, there's a bigger beast waiting, lying in wait, ready to prey on anybody vulnerable, seems like.
yeah.
Well, to recap, and you just mentioned this a few minutes ago, Coop, but 9 months after their Grammy win, on November 20th, 1990, Pilatus and Morvan were holding a hastily called press conference at Ocean Way Studios in Hollywood to officially turn over their Grammy Awards. Well, Coop and myself are happy to provide the awesome update that an online petition had circulated demanding the Recording Academy to reverse its decision and re-reward Milli Vanilli with its Grammy.
Yeah, that's kind of cool, isn't it?
Yeah, a little late though. It's a long time
Yeah.
coming, but yeah, I mean, I'm like, it shouldn't have really. I don't know. Like, this is a fascinating tale of
Yeah.
deceit and scam and whatever.
Yeah, and unfortunately, these two guys were the face of all of it.
Yes.
They were innocent, but they had to do this press conference in front of everybody, like almost like saying, "Well, it was our big idea to do this, and now we're sorry." It's like they had to take all of it. But I guess that just comes along with the package. So, but yeah, a little late, but it's cool that they decided that that's something that would be a nice ode to them for what they
I
had
agree. Yeah,
given
I
up.
agree. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So says Mitchell Cohen, music journalist who worked in A&R at Arista during the era, and I quote, "It's a modern day music business fable, a fascinating story that many different layers, but people took it way too seriously. There's a tradition for that sort of thing. 1960s vocal group The Crystals were whoever producer Phil Spector said they were." End quote.
Oh, I think that's another big Hollywood name from back in the day, Phil
Mm.
Spector.
Yes, I've heard that name before. Uh-huh.
Yeah, I don't think he was such a. Maybe he's another Farian. I don't know.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah. Well, Fab Morvan, now in his late 50s, is surprisingly sanguine and upbeat. Being Milli Vanilli has helped define his character and forged his destiny. He is a true survivor, his story a cautionary tale. I've always, and this is what he says, I quote, "I've always been underestimated," he says. "My dream was to be a singer, songwriter. I'm able to look in the mirror today and be happy with what I see," end quote. Milli Vanilli had been through a lot. A thrill
Yeah.
ride, if you will, not of their own making, as you mentioned just seconds ago, Coop. Shifty producers, opportunistic people behind the scenes, such as in the industry is all too common and is definitely not a one off.
Yeah.
But the inside story of Milli Vanilli was such a fascinating revisit to peer into this week, revealing the sparkling highlights of what the duo could accomplish. But unfortunately, we were able to see the darker underbelly of the industry rear its ugly head, which really made Milli Vanilli and their raw experience within it shine an uncomfortable spotlight on what the industry may really be about.
Mm-hmm.
Milli Vanilli gave us fans one of the first looks into what will happen if you don't follow the script. Now, in current times, it's still happening exponentially and is still uncomfortable, but not nearly as shocking. Its shady practices are much more commonplace as we see readily play out in the media and news feeds now.
Girl, it's true. We'll just blame it on the rain, perhaps. And we sure do. But it was so much fun diving deep into this fun backstory on Milli Vanilli. But to end this on a brighter note, Milli Vanilli gave it their all according to understood expectations and put on a great performance, plain and simple.
Mm-hmm.
And it was nice to know that Morvan is still able to look back on things and kind of maybe see a bright side, you know, that he
Yeah.
learned something. He learned something. So
Yeah.
that's
And
nice.
and real quick, he actually sings. He sings now. Like he's got a song out that's real cool.
Really?
I think, what's it called? It's a good song. I think it
Is
came
it?
out back in 2013 or 2014, but it was called Be There or something.
Okay. Cool.
It's a cool jam. I'll have to share it with you, but
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to hear it.
it's a good song.
All right. Put that on the to-do list.
That's right.
We enjoyed their presence, though, for sure, back in the sparkling 80s. And so grateful they left us the warm retro fingerprint they cleverly left for us from back then. What a caramelicious gift it was, too. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Love what you heard on this week's episode? Well, the answer is simple. To tune into future treks into the Orchard Archives, meet up with us here next week. Same time, same place at the Sweet Spot. Thanks so much for tuning in this week. We'll see you again. Thanks. Bye.
Sensei.